Board members, you all set?
Nice. I know you can do it.
Welcome, everyone. It's Tuesday, May 14th. It's the Warren Township High School regular Board of Education meeting. As we start out all meetings, can we get a roll call, Ms. Love?
Here.
Mrs. Martinez?
Here.
Mrs. Pope?
Here.
Mr. Schultz?
Here.
Mrs. Squires?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thanks. Now, if we could all stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. The flag is in the back of the room over there. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next up is the approval of the agenda. Do we have any changes to tonight's agenda? If not, I move to approve the agenda. Roll call.
Motion by Schultz and second by Pope. Mr. Carlson?
Yes.
Mr. DeMonte?
Yes.
Mrs. Martinez?
Yes.
Mrs. Squires?
Yes.
Mrs. Pope?
Yes.
And Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
I have 6 yes. Motion carries.
Fantastic. Next up are some recognitions.
All right, we've got a couple staff recognitions, and then I thought we were gonna have Avanza here tonight, but maybe they're coming at 7:30 and we didn't give them the right time. But let's have Mr. Bird and Ms. Bertola. Could you come up? All right, so coming up, Mr. Bird. Mr. Bird was recognized as our Gurney Teacher, Warren Township High School Gurney Teacher of the Year. The mayor's office does this on an annual basis. So he was nominated by a fellow staff member, and there were probably 7 or 8 staff members that were nominated this year. And then internally, we kind of go through a selection process, and his peers kind of pulled him to the top of that selection process. Then we recognized him at one of our institute days, and I think last Monday, did you go to the Gurney? He was recognized by the mayor at one of the council meetings, and then last week on Thursday night or Wednesday night, it was all a blur to me. But at the county's Educator of the Year celebration, he was recognized in front of about 800 attendees. So appreciate him and are really proud of him and his representation of Warren. He'll be recognized in this summer in the, Gene, what's it called? The mailer, the
Keeping Posted
Keeping
Plus.
Posted. So we'll celebrate him and Keeping Posted this summer that all of our residents will receive. So congratulations, John.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate this, and it's quite an honor to be nominated by somebody that I co-taught a class with for 10 years, to go in the classroom with him and to do that. So that means an awful lot to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, and then we'll bring Mrs. Bertola up. Mrs. Bertola was nominated in the same way that John was nominated for the County Educator of the Year Award. Although we don't have an internal Gurney Administrator of the Year Award, her peers did nominate her for the County Educator of the Year Award. And Ms. Bertola took the recognition home as the winner of the Administrator of the Year for the county. So that was a pretty fun moment for us at the table for those that were there, and really appreciate Michelle and all her work, and just want to recognize her for that, as she has been recognized at the county level.
I'll say something since John said something. I just want to say it was an honor too, and I love our students, I love our staff, and I love our community, and I'm so grateful for what I do, but it is such a team effort, so thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Michelle.
I just want to put one correction. It wasn't just peers that nominated,
That's true.
correct?
That's true. Yeah, you can correct me there.
I believe it was students as well.
Yeah, so we had a handful of students and community members and community leaders that put in here for Mrs. Bertola's Educator of the Year Award. Appreciate that.
Nice job.
Next up is the consent agenda. I move to approve the consent agenda items as presented, which includes personnel recommendations per Exhibit A, numbers 105 through 113 as posted, and Exhibit B, personnel recommendations number B256 through B262 as posted. The payment of bills dated May 14th, 2024 in the amount of $761,314.71. Regular meeting minutes and executive session minutes of April 23rd, 2024.
Second.
Roll call.
Motion by Schultz and second by Martinez. Mr. Demonte.
Yes.
Mrs. Pope.
Yes.
Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Mrs. Squires.
Yes.
Mrs. Martinez.
Yes.
Mr. Schultz.
Yes.
I have 6 yes, motion carries.
Awesome. Now I move for the Warren Township High School Board of Education to move to the Committee of a Whole for the purpose of this section of the meeting.
Second.
Roll call.
Motion by Schultz, second by Martinez. Mr. Demonte.
Yes.
Mrs. Squires.
Yes.
Mrs. Pope.
Yes.
Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Mrs. Martinez.
Yes.
Mr. Schultz.
Yes.
6 yes, motion carries.
Thanks very much. And let's start off with the stakeholder discussion.
Okay, I'll jump right in. Candy, you want to come up? I'm going to cede the floor to Candy. So I think in the board packet, everybody got a copy of our communications plan. Maybe like 4 or 5 months ago, the board said, hey, can we get Candy in? At that point, it had been about a year since she had joined the team. So she has been working on our approach for next year. This is a good time to bring her in here towards the end of this year. So you have the communications plan in the packet that you've been able to see, and she's just going to maybe do some highlights from that. But really, it seemed like what you wanted to do is just have some time to talk to her, ask her some questions, get some impressions from her, and share some thoughts. So we'll do she'll do a quick overview, and then we'll let you talk with her.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. And I'm going to stick to my notes because I could go on for an hour about this, and I know we don't have time for that. But so I want to start with our social media stats. This is actually a really fun thing to dig into because when you look at it, pretty much every measurable way across the board in the last year and a half shows improvement. So here we're showing our reach and our engagement. And reach is just how many total devices, screens, and timelines we show up on. In other words, how many eyeballs we are exposed to. It might be something that they're just scrolling past, but it reached them. And then engagement is when they take the reach that we just got, and then they take some kind of action on it. So they like it, they share it, comment, or click on a link.
Is that 369,000?
Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
Yeah, so that's how many eyeballs we're reaching. Yeah. A good example of reach is if we post something on our official Warren page, and then it gets shared, just for example, like in the Gurney Town Forum, someone who's a member of that group but doesn't follow our page could still be reached. Engagement is our ultimate goal. We don't have Facebook just to simply have Facebook and just to get all kinds of big, crazy numbers. It's just we can use it as a communication tool, and this engagement supports our other larger efforts. And then the survey that you see up here, we just sent that out. It was very small, and it's something we would like to do probably on a bigger scale, but we're trying to take like a small snapshot of where we are right now. And it showed us that our information to our parents is mostly being received via emails, social media, and directly from students, which is what we expected. Facebook and Instagram are by far the favorites with social media. And the quality of our communication and the quantity of our email and social media communication is about right. We can always work on fine-tuning these. Quality, of course, is very, very important. And then quantity is tough because it's like this magic number that doesn't exist. The feedback we get is it's too much communication and not enough communication at the same time. So we know that we can't make everybody happy, but we're always fine-tuning it and trying just to kind of improve our reach.
I think it's better for us to get criticized for over-communicating
For
than
sure.
under-communicating.
And that's what we always err on the side of, especially when it comes to like weather-related
Yeah.
stuff and closures and things like that. You can go to the next one. So when it comes to the plan that you guys got ahead of time, the one thing that we wanted to highlight was the different types of people that we're communicating to, our audience, and the different ways that we're reaching them. For tonight's examples, I'll use the active family and the trusting taxpayer. I would consider myself the active family. This person is engaged for the most part, wants the information, cares about the school, but just might need more reminders, more poking, more prodding, just a little bit more to get them to take action on the information. Our goal with them is to move them toward being a more connected family through our consistent and easy digestible, easy actionable communication. The trusting taxpayer is somebody who supports the school and education in general. They know we've got pretty schools, they think that's important, but aren't particularly engaged. We want to then help move them to become cheerleaders for the school that not only, for example, vote yes for our referendums, but they can explain to the frustrated taxpayer next door why they're voting yes, and then they can invite them to the fall musical and just become more, ingrained in a part of our culture and what we do. And then where we go from here, we worked really hard behind the scenes to kind of create this system, and now we're going to spend this year kind of working the system, spreading it out to where it's appropriate with our other communications in the district and our other efforts. We've got some great engagement. We've built it up. We've got some great PR on our side right now, especially the last 6 months, and now with these awards. So it's just a great time to just kind of keep doing what we're doing, keep growing, keep supporting these efforts. When I think about the way that we break down our efforts based on the different types of platforms, I think about it a little bit like an investment portfolio, how we're constantly analyzing it, constantly looking at these insights. Facebook and email might be a little bit more of your, trustworthy, you know what to expect, you're gonna get out of it what you put in. And then there's other ones that might be a little bit faster growing, like Instagram. We're growing really fast in that right now. But it's probably not going to, anytime in the near future, replace Facebook. So it's kind of like we're watching it and adapting as we go and making those adjustments kind of on the fly within the bigger communication plan. And then I want to end on this. This is very important to me, and I'm very proud of it, because this growth, this reach, all of these numbers, it's all been organic through these efforts. We have not spent $1 on boosting a post or promoting anything yet. We haven't needed to. Just consistently kind of trusting it and trusting the plan has really paid off. So I want to show my appreciation for you guys for believing in this, that it was actually worth, spending some time and money on. And I think that we're in a great position right now to kind of take it to the next step.
Well, I would
Any
like to
questions?
say, as a parent and a board member and a community member, that the communication this year has been super helpful. It's been much easier to know what's going on and to get the positive vibes about what's going on at school. For me, I would say a highlight has been the weekly emails that are so cleanly formatted that come from the schools. And last year I had kids on both campuses, and the fact that they came and they matched so well made it much easier for me to feel confident that I knew what I really needed to know. So
I also really like the social media weekly Snapchat. What are they called?
Yeah, like this week at Warren.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that,
yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, thank you. I think the reason that people are responding well to the newsletter, and actually it was Danny who brought it to the school district, but I think the reason why people like it is because it reads like social media. So you scroll through it like Instagram. There's a picture and then a little bit of information. And if something that interests you and you want to learn more about it, you can.
You've done a great job. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to say thank you too. I know we've been asking for this for a long time because we've got so many outstanding things that happen at Warren, and I always use the phrase, we're so excited about our great students and teachers, and we tell nobody. So it's so nice that we get to share all this great news with everyone. One question, I mean, you've talked a couple times about feedback and other things. What have we learned from all this communication? Have we gotten much feedback from the community on things we could do differently? Or is it pretty much just one-way communication?
It is a lot of one-way communication. We do want to get more feedback. Like I said, this was a very small sample this time around, and we're asking them how they're receiving email in an email. So, I mean, there is definitely faults in it.
Yeah.
We talked about maybe using the community mailer as a way to ask the community as a whole how we're doing. The insights obviously measure our engagement there. But yeah, I mean, the feedback, it's something we're always looking for.
So you pretty much doubled your reach in a year. You can do the same next year then? You're going to double again?
So that's what's interesting about it, though. That's why the strategy is involved, because we're not necessarily just trying to grow.
Yeah.
We want to have an appropriate audience that pays really close attention to what we're saying and acts on the information that we
No,
give
I get
them.
you. A targeted audience, yep.
Yeah. But there is certainly growth, and there's growth potential too. I mean, in growth that makes sense and supports what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Videos is one of the things that we mentioned, and having having the administration on video, it kind of puts a face with the building and just makes it more personal. Like when, people are complaining, what are these administrators doing anyway with all this money that they're getting? At least they know that that's what they look like. And they hear from him before every board meeting, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Two things. This is all great. It's hitting all the right notes, appears to be everything in the right direction, just from what I've seen, and it should be done. There was a fall ISB dinner where there was the superintendent from 73. Danny was there, I was there. If you heard about it or get the notes from it, they're really big into intergenerational communication. So it's not just one or the other, it's paper with social media, with email, because people read different things and our parents are different ages. But there were some really nice pieces of feedback in there. They do postcards intentionally because there's still a group of people that put them up on refrigerators. Everything that goes out on paper has a QR code. There was like a lot of good stuff that made sense. So that's just number one. Make sure to get that feedback or slide deck or what have you. The other was, I know in other high school systems that where money has not been a challenge, behind your position sometimes is content creator positions. So there might be 1 to 2 people that work under to create the videos. Are you getting the content you need? Is that something you can, if a position's not there, and it's likely not to be there, but a small pot of money so that someone can help you create content to push out? Or do you feel that's missing? I know a few high schools that have those positions, and then you become more the strategist than anything.
Right. I could see that eventually
Like
happening.
evolving at some point.
Yeah, I think that it just kind of depends. So like when we first started this, it was to get to a certain point, right? Okay, then we got there. Then it was to really focus on this.
Totally
And so-
asking for, we went
Right.
from nothing to.
So yes, yeah. So I
And
think
here I am asking for more. So
yes, I think that makes
please
sense.
don't. Yeah.
But what I was saying though is I don't think it would have made sense 2 years ago.
No, it
But I
absolutely
think,
would
yeah,
not
now
have.
it's starting to look at, okay, what is stopping us? Actually before the board meeting, I was just saying how watching them from home, this is all really nice, that the sound is so much better. You can really tell the improvement. So there are times when I have an idea, but I know I can't produce a good enough quality of a thing, so
Right.
I'm not gonna, waste anybody's time doing it. So there's certainly times like that where that would be
Yeah, I guess I'm
helpful to
just
have another.
throwing it out there to empower you to speak up if the next evolution, I know this is all relatively new, but
Yeah.
controlling the narrative and talking about all the great things that are happening is such a huge part of running an organization like this, because we have a million amazing things happening, but if we never get it out, and sometimes that getting it out comes in the form of video. In fact, it's usually better received in the form of video, short form videos, whatever. I don't know if there's a student group. I don't know if there's other people that could tap into that, but just somebody to feed you content ongoing.
But you made a really good point though before about like the postcards and the videos and things like that. That's why you broke down these archetypes, because
Yeah.
we're going to reach them in different ways.
That's correct.
And so like for registration, for example, we are going to send out an email like we normally do, but we're also going to send out a postcard with the QR code for registration that they can stick on their fridge. And it specifically says like, keep this postcard.
And the other reason you want to do that is, I bet if I looked in our power school, which I don't have access to, but I bet if I did, everyone has an email, and certainly everyone has a physical address. So, we reach, you talk about reach, we reach 100% of our main constituents through those two means, whereas the others are more opt-in approaches. So there could be really important things like first day of school registration, those kind of things that good old-fashioned email and a simple mailer work well. But this is great work that you're doing, and it'll be exciting to see what it evolves into.
Mr. DeMonte, I did just want to say
Yeah.
that we do have a student-led group that deals with socials. It's called Scratch Paper. They create videos that get sent out to all of the students. They can see it on YouTube, and that's kind of we did student surveys earlier in the year, and actually that is one of the main ways our students get communication. They actually watch these videos. They find them more engaging than a simple email. But I was wondering, I have a question for you, for the newsletters that you guys sent out. Last year I was receiving them, but this year for some reason I'm not. Is this just a me problem, or is it for everyone that we just haven't been giving the students the newsletters as well?
The weekly emails that we're talking about, those that come from the principals, those go to our parents and our staff.
Okay. Because I remember last year I was also receiving them and I found them helpful. I don't know if there's a way to also send them to students, but I really enjoyed reading those last year and I felt very connected. This year I feel like it's a lot less of that. So I'm not sure if there's a way that we can maybe get students involved and have them also get these newsletters, but I feel like we would find it helpful as well because a lot of the time we don't know what's happening in the school other than the activities we're involved in.
Since that comes from the principals, I would say that they'd be better off, or the better people to answer that, but.
Okay, thank you.
Before you move on, it sounds like we have some students that are actively involved in doing what Tony just suggested you do. Could they help you?
And we have worked together, yes. And I have been sharing some of their content on our social and on our website. And
Hey, then.
right. And like, for example, one of the teachers that's going to retire, they just did a feature on him in scratch paper. And then I got video of him at the pep rally. And so we're going to combine their article with that video and then put it together and, post that. So.
But it also has natural reach, because if you're sharing a student video, it's going to go to likely their followers
And they'll
and
learn
people
to do
too.
things. that
Yeah,
they
we
need to do.
I believe Scratch Paper has an Instagram page, and that's also where a lot of students get their information because Scratch Paper posts like really fun short videos. Sometimes like during football season, they'll have interviews on the sidelines, and I feel like that's definitely a way that students get reached because Instagram is one of the most popular platforms right now. I feel like if not the most popular, it is one of them. So I feel like that's definitely easier to reach the students, that and emails, but we don't receive many emails, so it's either the Scratch Paper video announcements or Instagram pages that we receive most of our communication.
So one distinction I'd like to make though is this is communication to the parents.
Yeah.
So yes, I would not use Facebook if I was trying to reach,
Yeah.
the kids in the building. It's just it wouldn't be effective. So yes,
Hear my son now.
Yeah.
We do that. They will.
If you look at in one of the I think it was in the insert that you guys got, but it breaks down our audience and like. I'm the audience.
It's
like
us.
it's this is the audience. It's female
old
between
women.
35 and 55 and yeah. Which makes sense though because are the parents of the people in our building and that's who I'm trying to talk to. So
I just wanted to say thank you for all you've done. You've done an amazing job over the last couple of years. Thank you, Dr. Wiesman, for suggesting this position because I have seen the communications before and after, and it has gone from 0 to 1 million in a heartbeat. And so I'm grateful. I think about what we could have accomplished, the first time of the referendum.
Yes.
Not necessarily advocating to vote for it, but just getting information out.
Right.
We struggled so much with a contract provider, and it was just a disengaged process. And this has just been, when you say organic, like that's the only word I can think of. But I remember when Dr. Wiesman brought this subject up, I'm like, oh my gosh, this just makes so much sense. Can we do it? Because we really needed an in-house, somebody who knew us. And even those of us that worked on the referendum, there was just so much hesitation about the use of social media and oh my gosh, it's clear. The answer is we have reached so many. I mean, if you're not on Gurney Moms, you don't know what's going on. Like, that's where it's all at. So I'm just saying, you've just done a marvelous job in print, in social media, and for the kids. So thank you so much. You've made a lot of lives easier, for sure. So appreciate your help.
thank you.
Candy. All right, the other topic I thought we could discuss that I ran by Mr. Carlson and Ms. Martinez was, I think I had committed to coming back with a proposal for an advisory council this year. So what I would suggest, that this is a strategy that the board wants to consider, is that I've got 3 ideas for possible advisory council groups. They're thematic groups, and that the board identify one, just one, please. It's a lot of work and it's hard to engage busy families. But we could kind of follow the model that Dr. Moran has had a large amount of success with this year with BPAC, or the Bilingual Parent Advisory Council. They would meet 4 to 6 times during the year. Probably we'd have to identify an administrator that would run those meetings, prepare for the meetings. And probably we would, if we really want to use this as an engagement opportunity for the board, then it would be good to identify 1, 2, or 3 board members that could go to at least one meeting for both the Bilingual Parent Advisory Council and the second Parent Advisory Council. I think part of the initial conversation was, what can we do to better, as a board, what can we be doing to reach out and better connect with, to understand our families and their needs? I'll tell you, if you show up at the Bilingual Parent Advisory Council meeting, they will shower you with grace and gratitude for coming. They really appreciate just being acknowledged, and our council loves Sandy, so that they'll also tell you how great she is. But just coming and listening to them, or just even coming and being part of their time is really meaningful to them. So that's my proposal. These are the 3 groups. We don't have to do one of these 3, but these are the 3 that I seem to resonate with conversations that I've heard us have as a district over the past year and a half. I'll stop and let you guys talk about them.
Well, I would vote for all 3 if I could, but one just makes logistical sense to me at this time because of our audit. And the special ed, I mean, it's a no-brainer for me because we have a lot of work to do, and I think we really need to have a very dedicated way to involve the stakeholders of the parents. And so, I mean, to me, the Diverse Learners Advisory Council is a no-brainer at this point. But if we could do them all, that would be great, but I know we can't. And I know there's a huge shovel needed going forward, and they need to be a part of it, so.
I agree with Beth on the diverse learners.
Volunteer to be in each committee, or are we open to any of us showing up anytime, or how do you want to play that?
It would probably be most efficient if there was at least one night where we knew 1, 2, or 1 or a few board members were coming, because probably Dr. Moran and whoever else we have running a second group would organize the agenda in a way that we could organize the agenda so that you can have a listening session with them in a different way than this, because I think we've talked about, we want people to be engaged here, but they don't always necessarily feel like this is an easy way to engage with you.
Talking about a bilingual and a parent? Or?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And they are happy for you to come if you don't speak Spanish. It's okay. That's okay.
You're asking for recommendations. I would just mirror exactly what you said, Beth. I mean, there's so much work that's needed for the third one, the diverse learners. I mean, that's where we need the help.
Yep.
So yes, it makes sense to pair it with an audit and the work that we're doing. It would have to be well-defined, clear agenda, clear discussions. Everybody has individual needs, individualized educational plans, and may feel strongly one way or the other. Sorry, I'm not speaking into this. So it would just have to be carefully led with clear objectives and some kind of end result from it, other than talking about specific kids, specific programs, and that kind of thing. 2, we may want to include in that, because right now we've identified on multiple occasions that we have a lot of students that are outplaced, parents of our outplaced students on that committee, because there is potential in the work that we're doing to bring some kids back, and many times those parents feel disconnected. because their kids don't attend here as they're serving school. So their diploma says Warren, but they don't always feel that connection to Warren. So it's a good way to get on that group, 1 or 2 parents that feel like they have a say, especially if programs are being thought about coming back.
How are you gonna recruit?
You know, this might be the easier one to recruit for. We already do have some just required communication mechanisms with parents of that would probably be good fits here, and so I don't think we'll have a problem recruiting for that group.
I hear what Tony was saying about the diverse needs and bringing parents together, and, you know, each kid has individual needs, and they could go, you know, people can go down their own paths and whatever, and every time we go into an annual survey at a nursing facility, we have to do a resident council meeting, and we bring a whole herd of residents together, and one of the things I start off the meeting with is, you know, you're here, but you're here to represent your residents in your building. And I think if we recruit based on that, we're looking for representatives to represent everyone that can't be at the meeting. And I think they'll step up, and every time those residents step up, I mean, they may have their own little, you know, whatevers, but it really charges them to like be thinking outside themselves, and I have faith that we can get a really good discussion together outside of personal dynamic, and yeah.
It's a great way of phrasing it.
Yeah, it worked. If you set it up ahead of time, and everyone's like, you're not here for yourself, if you have special needs, that was a poor. If you have individual needs you need to talk about, we can create a meeting for that. But you're representing people that are not here. And it works. I mean, people kind of step outside themselves and step up. So I think it'd be a great group, actually.
Okay, so you have all these meetings, and I've been recruited, and I'm a parent, and I go to these meetings and I give you my opinion, then what? Are you gonna do a report at the end of the year, and try and consolidate it, or an action plan, or what happens then?
Yeah, so really what I would want to do is model some of what the BPAC does, and some of the BPAC is getting feedback, but some of the BPAC is also providing a support network for those families, and some of it's educating the families. So it's not all, just to clarify, we wouldn't be doing 4 to 6 meetings of just feedback all the time. But generally what you're doing is you are trying to get some feedback from them, and then you're changing your programming for the future.
But I could also see taking parts of the audit, you know, specific topics that would need in like large lifts, and soliciting feedback based on that specific topic, or what needs to be worked on, and how do you foresee this happening, and really just trying to get like the parent engagement part of it before plans are made or pencils are pulled out or whatever. So I think a lot of the meetings could be topic driven based on that audit, frankly. Not that I'm telling you how to do it or what they should do, but I mean, you could get 1,000 meetings probably based on that audit alone and the recommendations they have, so.
I guess I'm looking for a way to empower them. I'd like for the chairman, for lack of a better term, or the leader of that committee, to be able to come to you and eventually us with suggestions and specifics that they come up with.
And that's probably, I'm just taking notes on my phone since my laptop's doing this. That's probably one of the primary reasons why we'd want to organize a time for the board, one or a couple board members to come, is to get.
Because we could give a report on the committee we attended.
Correct.
Right.
You can go and you can say, here's what I heard from them. They can do some type of share of, here's what we've done during the year. Here's what we appreciate. Here's some things to consider for improvement. Okay, I think I got clear directions on that. I will start to work with the team on some ideation for that. All right, let's see. Maybe we can have Mr. Geocaris come up. We're going to talk about, can we transition to student discussion?
We just did.
Okay, sorry. Want to talk a little bit about that career pathway position? I think we said we'd do some work.
Yep.
Let's see, what do my slides look like here? So we did spend, Chris can help me here. We spent the last few weeks and we reached out to and met with individuals from Lake County Partners, which is the local area economic development council for the county. We met with, Lake County Workforce Development.
We met with Dan Ortega over at College of Lake County, who runs the apprenticeship program at CLC.
Then we met with Tech Campus, some leaders at Tech Campus. And primarily what we tried to do was better understand how different entities in the county are connecting individuals who are looking for work to the workforce opportunities. And some of that involves connecting them to training. Some of it involves connecting them to employers. A lot of it involves these entities working with employers to better understand what the needs are today and in 5 years and in 10 years. Chris, you explained something really well just about the breadth of this work. I don't know if you remember. Can you think of what I'm thinking right now? But
So
after
I
we
think-
did the meeting on Friday.
So I think there's two things that one of the issues that we're finding out is there's lots of little organizations providing services that are disconnected from one another. So there's lots of people doing things, but nobody's aware of what other people are doing. And that's really becomes one of the crux of the issues for high schools, is to connect those dots to provide services for kids. Was that kind of what you
That's
were?
what I was, yeah, that was, you said that in a good way. It's like a spider web and it's hard to wrap. I actually don't know how people do it if they're like looking for employment, how they process all of the resources. They're all good resources, but it's very complex to navigate. There isn't like a central place that you go to say, hey, I need to be retrained, or I'm out of work, or I'm fresh into the workforce. There's like 12 smaller places that you can go.
And that works both ways too. So employers are looking for apprentices, but they also don't know where to go to connect to programs to get kids to come be apprentices for them. And the other thing I think that Danny and I learned about this week too is there's also different levels of quality of apprenticeships. So there are some Department of Labor certified apprenticeships that are in place in Lake County, and there's some that are not. And that doesn't mean one's better than the others. There's different levels of, like, this is a certification that a workplace has and training that a workplace has gone through. So it means maybe they're a little bit more ready to take on apprentices versus this other organization might need a little bit more training to take in students to come work. So there's a lot of variety, there's a lot of ambiguity, and there's not a central place where everybody knows, if I come here, I can get connected to the people that can help me with my particular needs.
I would add one more bit of complexity that was new to me, even though I've done in my previous places of employment, I've done a lot of career pathway work. Something that was new to me was the idea of a quality of training programs connected to workforce. So a lot of times if you're a high school student or you've recently graduated from high school, you can enter into an apprenticeship program or job placement or job development and training program. And we heard stories, different perspectives on the stories of experiences with these, because sometimes employers will bring in a new employee with the intent to train them up, or someone in a formal apprenticeship program, and they will not necessarily view that individual as someone who needs training, and they'll focus on really specific skills. So the example of being a welder, I think, was what was shared with us. Someone might hire an apprentice or a new employee and say, look, I commit to teaching basic aspects of welding, but really what they need is a spot welder, and they'll just have that individual just do spot welding, and 6 months you're into it and that person doesn't know how to do anything other than spot welding. So this is a really complex environment that we're looking at. I've got an example of, we did find that something that was new to me as a find was that CLC has a fairly new pre-apprenticeship program, what they call. that is intended to serve 8th through 12th grade students, get them prepared to enter into the workforce immediately after high school. And their apprenticeship program, if I'm a high school graduate, I can enter their apprenticeship program, and they help me find a job in one of 5 kind of high demand areas. And I attend work. I go to work. I get paid for 25 to 35 hours a week, and at the same time, I'm taking 1 or 2 classes at CLC, cost free because the employer is also paying for my tuition, so I can get trained up while I'm attending, while I'm employed. It seems like a really good option that it seems like it's fairly new, but they've got some gas behind it and plans for the future. And they have a pre-apprenticeship program that basically does 90% of what we want students to experience here at Warren. And so that was a good learn over the last few weeks, and something.
Their numbers, Danny. I mean, are they doing 20 people or 200 or what?
You know what? I think what we got was how many spots they've got open.
That's what I was going to add to that. Is it's not big, but they have not filled all the spots that they have to fill. So they were excited to talk to Danny and I because of our size and our ability to bring students to them into the pre-apprenticeship, which would then filter into their apprenticeship program, because they have more and more businesses coming to them trying to get kids to come work, but they don't have enough kids to fill those slots.
Any possibility we could establish a relationship with them and become a template and fill their need, and other people follow our example?
That was one of the things that we talked about, is how could we maybe start to partner with them, and one of the things that we would, if that's some of interest, we would continue to talk with Dan and then some of the supervisors over there to see what maybe a partnership could look like. But I know he seemed to be interested in looking at what some sort of collaboration between the organizations could look like.
So when I read through the information, I was just curious, and I'm wondering how you feel about it. Is it my understanding that anyone in the apprenticeship program has to be able to place in CLC level math and English class? Like, do they have to take courses and the ability to, or, because I'm wondering if it's going to be able to serve a large continuum of our students, or is it only those that might be able to place into?
There's it's what I've learned through CLC is a lot of it is program dependent. And in some of the technical fields, some of that program entry requirement is a little bit lower or a little bit different. And so our transitional math course helps with that. One of the things that I'm working with Keith Kremkow's, the lead teacher for math over here, is we're working on bringing forward a dual credit math class that would actually be specifically for kids that want to go take technical programs at CLC. So we'd be able to make sure that kids that were going into those types of programs, we could get them that credit or whatever entry requirements they need. We could get that done here.
Their math skills aren't as solid to be able to take a college level math class.
It's not like taking pre-calculus. It's like an application-based math class. So if they were to go into an associate's degree, a standard associate's degree, it would not transfer. But if you're going into like their CAD or technical trades, this takes care of your math requirement to get into that program or for that program.
That was just my kind of hesitation of it. Like, are we not able to include some of the kids that might be really struggling, that need kind of a landing spot?
I've worked a lot with CLC in terms of their career and technical fields, and they do everything they can to get kids access. So some of their requirements look a lot different in those technical fields.
So could one of you talk to us about this group of students who are likely to participate in a program like this? Like, what need are we trying to meet for those students?
So one of the needs that I see that we're trying to meet is we have Lake County is a huge industrial area, and not all of our kids are traditional college-bound students. So what we are trying to do is to help our kids get a jump start on careers, finding careers that interest them, having opportunities so that when they leave Warren, they don't have a choice of I go to the workforce or I go to college. They can see there's a pathway for them to do both and have a high earning wage in a career that has potential for growth, and already have skills that sets them apart from people that they might be competing with in the job field. And it's flexible, and the flexibility is what makes it complex, but it's flexible, so it's not just like one profile of kid. I want to go be a welder, or it might be a student, somebody who I want to go work in an office doing this type of work. There's lots of different careers that are out there. There's lots of different opportunities, and this would provide all of those types of kids a chance to get those apprenticeships, experience what that might look like, so they can make sure this is what I want to do, and then connect them to post-secondary opportunities like the CLC program that would potentially allow them to get free college, earn a higher wage, and get a jump start on things. I think one of the things that Dan was talking to us about was that some students that entered that program in their first, 4 months, had out-earned their parents' annual wages, because just the variety of backgrounds that are coming from, and like a lot of these kids are first generation college kids, and so there's like so much opportunity that's life-changing for some of these kids.
The way I would describe the type of student we're looking for is that we're looking for a student who's hoping to get a job immediately after they graduate from high school. And our intentions, I believe, should be to give them as many tools as they can to enter when they take that first job after high school. Probably not first job in their life, but that first job after high school, that we're doing as much as we can to push them into high demand, high wage, stackable job choices, so that they are entering a place where they're going to have lots of opportunities. If they keep doing it, that experience is going to transfer to other job opportunities in the county. It's going to pay them higher compared to other high school graduate job offerings, and it gives them a chance to continue to move up, which not all jobs high school students enter do that for them.
So from a Warren administrative perspective and a Warren teacher perspective, can you kind of give me what engagement with the program might look like? Like, I don't know if you flushed it out yet. I know it's very probably hazy or whatever, but I'm just trying to see, like, are we looking, I mean, we've talked about career pathways, but like, is this dictating, is it kind of dictating what we might want to put together? Is it?
It helps. So
Clarify?
it helps to clarify and strengthen some pathways maybe more than others, because we can clearly connect career pathways to post-secondary opportunities.
They're identifying these as the high need in the area, right? Like,
Yes.
this isn't you.
This is not me saying
Random
this
number
course is
generating.
cool.
Yeah.
This is
Or
really
even-
cool, guys.
Because when we talked about career path, I mean, like, you know, we could talk about healthcare for hours. Like, you know, being in it, I could tell you all the needs, right? But at the same time, you guys would have to become aficionados in what are the needs, what are the niches, are they helpful in helping you guys build programs? Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Yeah, they're helpful in that there's only so many programs that we can run, house, teach, just based on facilities, teachers' credentials, things of that nature, right? But they are able to help us identify what are the skill sets of our teachers, what are the curriculum that we offer, and then help us to point that, target that, revise that. So we're making sure that we're connecting things. I know our industrial technology program spent the entire year this year auditing all of their courses, looking at workforce data, going out to the Advanced Technology Center at CLC, and then trying to looking at their offerings and deciding, like, well, how do we change what we're doing to make sure that we're preparing our kids for that next step in the fields that we support
This will support you
significantly.
creating. And then my second question is, how does this marry with or compete with or juxtapose with the tech campus? Like, the offerings in the tech campus, your partnership with the tech campus, which I know we send the most students to the tech campus. Is this how does it affect?
It's separate.
How?
So when we talk about our internal programs, what's offered at the tech campus is not mirrored here in the school. Like, so the gaming, the fire, the CNA, all that. So we don't offer those programs here. We offer them through the tech campus. So like in general, usually the tech campus provides some of those work-based.
Standalone.
Yes.
Training.
Whereas here, this would support our in-house programs that we don't have those resources right now that maybe the tech campus does in the field.
So what we don't know now, to be honest, is exactly how we would interface with things like CLC's apprenticeship program. Workforce development at the county level has an apprenticeship program. How we would interface with Lake County Partners, for example, they've offered to help. Chris and I do think that we need, if we want to move in this direction, we're not structured currently to move in this direction, and we need some additional staffing to do that. So if moving in this direction at all, not even though we don't know exactly how this will work, to move in this direction, we do think that we need to recognize some additional staffing needs if that's a priority for the board. So I've got 3 options here. One is we could go another year status quo. We'd use Tech Campus to fill state requirements. We would probably have to want to talk about this again next year. The second option that we've talked about in the past is we could just hire an additional staff member to be part of the team. This would probably help us move the fastest. We'd bring someone in, they could hit the ground running, trying to figure out what these partnerships would look like, start right away supporting teachers to get ready for these types of opportunities and experiences. They would help us be able to improve our programming that would lead into apprenticeships and also trainings and also post-secondary training options. Or kind of a option 3 or an option 1.5, kind of in the middle of 1 and 2, is to keep taking steps forward. We could do like an individual contract with someone who could come in and maybe has experience interfacing between high schools and colleges and just help us keep moving along the way with a short-term commitment so that we can then understand better what a long-term position would do.
Would the option 3 include the goal of meeting the requirements by the time they're required for the pathways? I mean, would that be included in?
In option 3, that would end up staying with me in option 3, because that would be something that we would have to file with the state. Involves a lot of internal curriculum, so that would be something, and they would maybe support helping identify maybe some of the work-based learning and like the work-based learning that would have to take place in the career exploration activities, but that would still live primarily with me in option 3.
We would be doing option 3. My intent in option 3 would be to get to option 2. We're just giving ourselves some more time to do some research without the long-term commitment, because we do need to pull some of this off of Chris's plate if we want to make some significant steps.
I also think option 3 might end up costing us more in the long run versus option 2. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it could.
On the financial part of it.
I don't know exactly what I would have to pay for that. I haven't done that math.
Typically, you end up paying more for a contractor than in-house.
It depends on the contract.
I would like to see us strongly consider option 2, because I think we should do this in-house, but get on a horse here for a second before Beth knocks me off of it. This is why we do this. This is why we're here. If we make this decision today, we're, okay, I'll go, I want to back up for a second, and I'll speak from experience. 5 years ago, the county had multiple programs for housing and mental health and recidivism and drug addiction and you name it. And we would be sitting in committees and we say, we don't know where the need is and we can't coordinate this, and we came up with something called 211, which those of you that are not familiar with it is basically a hotline that you can call if you have basically any problem, and they put you together with the resource that's there, because it was their job to know the resources that were there. This is the equivalent of that with job training. From what I understand from you, there are many programs out there, but they don't coordinate with each other. They don't even know they're there. much less have one individual who knows which one would fit. With 211, we had 300,000 people call in the first couple of years. How many lives did we save? Literally. How many houses, how many divorces did we prevent? How many drug addictions did we stop? That's something. This is the equivalent of that. How many kids, students, lives are we going to affect for the rest of their lives because we put them on a path that we just enable them to do? This is why we're here. Number 2.
I would go for number 2. I'm with Steve.
My hesitation about number 2 is creating another kind of big project situation alongside the special education audit that we're still trying to work through and, establish how we're going to address that. Option 3 appeals to me because it gives us a chance to figure out the siloed situation, figure out what a partnership with CLC in terms of the apprenticeship would look like, and take advantage of the excellent resources that already exist at CLC and come up with a strategy to use them rather than replicate them.
A number 2 would still be able to do the same thing, and it's in-house, and we're pioneering a program, a project, instead of hiring someone else and let's see what we can do and then incorporating what we could have done from the
Well, we're
beginning.
still hiring someone else. That's just creating a wheel that's already created.
We're still
at
moving forward with number
CLC.
3.
Well, with all due respect, I mean, one does not preclude the other. We're talking about relatively small amount of money here, number 1. Number 2,
I don't think it's the money.
Well,
Just to
okay.
respond to that, I
Well-
don't think it's the money, it's the amount of energy and time it's gonna take. Possibly, you have one person sitting here saying he's gonna own the pathways, the internships, special ed, audit progress, like, am I missing something?
But didn't
Okay.
you say that would take it off your plate? If we
This-
go with number 2,
so
not
it-
number 3.
In number 2, what that would help, how that would assist me is that would take the large amount of the work that's aligned to this and allow me to take a support role and a leadership role with that rather than being the one that's directly
The nitty-gritty.
integrating,
more
doing that
special ed.
work. So that would then allow me to focus more energy towards our work towards the special education audit, our professional development, our academic interventions, and focus more in that area.
we would do what you guys want to do.
Repeat that, Steve?
What I'm wondering is what's the effect of pioneering a new project now alongside other changes that we're also making on the entire
First of all,
system?
other
Like
schools-
everybody has to adjust
Other schools are
to
doing it, right?
I'm just saying pioneering because that was
Yeah.
Natalia's word.
So I just want to add my 2 cents. First of all, Chris, thanks for your help on this, because I know I've been kind of vocal that this is hopefully going to fill a void that I feel that we have right now for the kids that aren't going on to continue in education. My preference right now would be option number 3. I know it doesn't take as much work off your desk right now, which, I can appreciate. But as you're saying, Susan, we've got so many other big things going on right now. There's only so many projects we can handle. And I think if going by number 3, we're still moving forward, and this person might help define what the role is going to look like and what kind of person we want to hire for that.
You could still hire someone that has experience in that role, and when I say pioneering, we could still create a program and hire someone with the experience where we're not looking at other districts and modeling them, we're creating what works for Warren, and I think that our district is pretty diverse with needs, where we could end up with a really strong program where actually other schools in the surrounding areas with a similar demographic would come to us and say, hey, what are you doing? Like, how are you doing this? Like, we want to take from you instead of us taking from others.
I agree with 100% with that. I've never said otherwise. But it doesn't mean like we can't start with 3 then go to 2. 2 is our goal. I think we've said that before. It's just how we want to get there. We want this program. As a board, we've been asking for this program. And then, yeah, there's nothing wrong with being the leaders in it. It's just what approach we want to take.
Okay, so option 3 would cost us more, and it would
We don't
still-
know, we don't know that.
And it would still leave a whole lot on
Where's
his
the data to
desk.
support that?
Yeah, we don't know it's going to cost more.
We don't know it wouldn't, but what it is stated,
Then
it
they
is
can't make an
stated.
assertion about.
It is stated that option 3 would leave a lot on his desk that doesn't need to be there, when he could turn around and concentrate on the social, the
When
program
Danny
you're talking
discussed the options, and correct me if I'm wrong, option 2 would get us right out of the gate, get going, yesterday, get it started, whatever. Option 3 would be a slower pace drive to kind of figure out the waters with someone, and like you said, hire somebody that has experience in this, but is just on a short-term basis to see, like, what is it gonna look like if we partner? I mean, we don't have all those answers yet, right? I mean, do you have a preference, GL? Like, do you have? No, I'm serious. This
So
is, you know,
Yeah,
as I listen to you guys talk, Danny and I talk through our options, and all of our options are viable.
I'd say
Right.
option 1 is not viable.
Well, option 1 would be the least attractive, and I don't think that's the right move for the district at all. But it is an option that is viable, right? Option 2 and option 3 both move us forward. I don't think a question around like my workload is appropriate. I think the question should be around what's best for our kids and what's best for the organization. I think if you were asking me which one I think is like I would prefer option 2, because I think that it has somebody that's internal, it's somebody that's going to connect all of these things and also be connected to our staff at the same time. That's going to intimately understand what our programs are, what our curriculum is, what our staff needs are, what our student needs are, and as well as collecting that external data of what are the resources that are available, how do we connect our students to those people, how do we provide those people that training, and seeing that holistic picture. I think we get some of that with option 3. It definitely will move us forward. It'll help us to flush some things out, but I don't think we get that tight alignment that could happen with the curriculum side that you would get in option 2.
how does the report on the special ed audit and the curriculum alignments that would be coming out of something like an option 2, which would be a faster pace alignment to goals that would be directly related to what we're discussing, and yet you have moving parts in my head, moving parts in a special ed audit that you're trying to align to the recommendations and needs of that special ed audit. Doing that all at the same time, to me, sounds very challenging unless I'm missing that these are completely separate universes. And I don't know, like, do you have any thoughts about that too?
So I think they're related in that I think this also feeds into how do we create flexible learning opportunities for students, right? That, like, in my mind, like that differentiation piece in the learning opportunities we provide for kids is very clearly identified in this. But I do think that they're separate in terms of, like, this is a lot of external program planning and connecting kids to opportunities. So we have a person that's focused on like that external connection and building these work-based learning opportunities. And at the same, and separately, we're also working with staff, our teachers and instructors, to improve in the areas that we're identifying that special education on, like how do we differentiate for students? How do we assess learning better? How do we make sure we're creating flexible learning opportunities for like responding flexibly to student learner needs? So I see them as being separate, and as I process the work, I see the option 2 as a tool that I can use to help us come out the other side of this better.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but if in option 2, it would still somehow align with really helping special education, because if we have the transitions program, then they're also, they're out there checking out like what opportunities we can not just bring back for our gen ed kids, but for our special ed children, where then those are more opportunities and possibilities of them thriving, once they turn 22 and move on.
Yeah, it does have, there's some job placement that already happens in transition, right? But it does strengthen.
Another layer.
It
would
does add more.
strengthen the program.
So in option 2, if we hire full-time, long-term positions, does that mean we are trying to create apprenticeship opportunities for Warren students as opposed to connecting with the pre-apprenticeship program that leads to apprenticeship after high school?
honestly, I think it's yes and. Because there is a spot for pre-apprenticeships, right? But there is also other opportunities, like even internally here at Warren, for internships and other work-based learning experiences that we can connect kids to as well. So like there's things like, even when Candy was up here talking earlier, there's things that she's doing that would be amazing to connect students to as an internship. That wouldn't necessarily be considered an apprenticeship, but it would definitely be something that wouldn't be something that would be supported by CLC, but that's an example of another type of opportunity that we can create with a position like this. So yes, it is connecting kids to CLC, but I think there's a potential for there to be broader than just that.
Danny, what are you looking from the board tonight?
Yeah, I think this is what this is doing is this is helping me understand probably where individual board members are at. What I don't need is a final decision tonight. I think that I need to go back and put together a formal proposal now that I understand, I think, different perspectives and priorities that I think we need to put together a proposal that we can get passed.
Okay.
In 2 weeks.
So
That wouldn't be 3-3?
So, no, because I just want to say one more thing, and don't hit me. I've always been in favor of option number 2. I was in favor of option number 2 a couple board meetings ago. Most of the board said, maybe not. And that's why I said I was in favor of number 3, just to get a conversation going and see what everybody else is really thinking. I'm in favor of number 2. I was in favor of number 2 last year and the year before. I've been very vocal about we can't forget about the kids that are not going on to college. This helps fill that need.
Yeah, and to say another thing about that, I've really noticed that we have a really large demographic of students that are not going to college. I don't know if there's exact data on what percentage of our seniors are graduating to go on to the workforce, but I do know that I know personally a lot of students that aren't going to college. And I feel like at times, especially from my perspective as someone who is going to college, we can be a little bit closed-minded towards the people that are looking for a job, they're looking for apprenticeships, they're looking for trade school. And I think that this could be something that would be really helpful for them because there's not as many resources. You know, you have college counselors and you have a lot of teachers that can tell you a lot about it. But as far as how do I get a job? How do I get a job that can provide for myself and my family instead of talking to teachers about college? Because that's not really their forte. You know, there's not really someone here who their specialty is apprenticeships in the workforce. And I think that that would be really helpful because students don't really have someone to talk to about that. While there are a lot of people who can help with college, I think that the workforce and apprenticeships would be really, really helpful.
Can I ask, Tatiana, I appreciate that. Can I ask, from your impression, is when the student's saying, I'm not planning on going to college after high school, but my guess is most of them are at the same time, if not verbalizing, thinking, but I know I need to get a job. Is that true? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that that's something that, unfortunately, a lot of them they're not on top of that. You know, they're not super concerned about it because then they're like, oh, well, I have time. I don't have any commitments. I'm not going to college. I don't have to choose a path yet. But I think that, the job of the high school is to put kids on a path. It could be college, it could be trade school, it could be a lot of different things. But our job, well, you guys' job, is to put the kids. The job is to put the kids on a path they're not gonna be leaving high school being like, I don't really know what to do, I'll figure it out later. I think that it would be really helpful to have someone that, obviously we have Miss McGann over there, so we have people in the CCC, but to have the option of college and going to CLC to learn whatever it is they would like, but then also the option of I want to get right into the workforce so they can have their decision made before they graduate so they can have a plan to set them up for success in the rest of their life.
And there's a lot of students who base their decisions because their families can't afford to send them to college if they don't have a full ride or a significant scholarship.
That's another really good point because I noticed that you mentioned that it would have been, tuition will be covered by the apprenticeship program, and that's another huge thing. It's another huge thing because I know that a lot of the kids that don't plan on going to college, a lot of them are first generation, born from immigrants. Some of them might be low income households, and I think that a lot of the reasons that we see the cycle of, oh, well, my parents didn't go to college. Now I can't go to college because I don't have the income to support myself going to college. I think that that could be helped out a lot by putting them in a program where they're going to be allowed to get a college education and put them in a position to make money when they grow up.
Do students, if I say the word apprenticeship or internship or job, I assume all students know what the word job means. Do students know what apprenticeship means?
I would say on a large scale, kind of. I don't think that a lot of them have looked into it enough. I think that's the big problem here, is that there's not a lot of information on it. They don't really know what they're doing. They're kind of like, apprenticeship, well, I don't really know what that means. Internship, I don't really know what that means. I just need to get a job. And they don't really know what the steps are to get a job and to get a good job, one that they can grow in, that they can have long term. And I think that that's what this would really help out with, is getting someone that's going to be there, oh, well, you want a job, that's all you really know. Here's step 1, step 2, and step 3 to get you to your final destination of getting a good job, instead of just kind of sending them out and just having them know, oh, well, I need to get a job.
I completely agree with all of Tatiana's points. I know from my standpoint, still at the O'Plain campus, I know there are students who are considering apprenticeships, who are considering not going to college and perhaps going into trades, but they don't have the resources and they don't know where to look for these resources, because we love the College and Career Center. We love all of the ladies who work there, but that I agree that there aren't enough teachers you can reach out to, specialists in that field that you can reach out to learn more about this. I have a lot of friends who want to go into apprenticeships and they just don't know where to start. And they can't find the resources. They don't have a real person they can talk to. Sure, they can Google for hours, but it's different having that personal connection. I completely agree with all of Tatiana's points. And I think it would also help for students who want to realize that there is a different option than college earlier on, to have someone, rather than like last minute being like, oh my gosh, I didn't get scholarships, I don't know what to do, like I don't know if I can go to college, I should go to work. I think just having that safety net and knowing that there's someone there to help you through that since the beginning of high school will definitely help a lot of students find that pathway. And if something doesn't work out the right way, then they have someone to help fall back on, right? I think it would definitely help a lot, and I agree with everything Tatiana said.
Well, I'm glad you guys are here.
Yeah, I bet you are. I just want to be really clear. We've talked a lot about, those that are going to college versus those that are not. And I know from personal experience, and Ms. McCann is over there somewhere, I think it would be remiss not to mention that there is a lot of discussion about non-college options at Warren Township High School. And it's bothering me right now because I don't think that work is being recognized in this discussion. And so I want to make sure nobody is hearing that we are not discussing non-college options with the kids at Warren Township High School, because we have the most kids going to the tech campus of any other high school in this county. And they do a terrific job of talking to kids about doing trade work in this school. So I want to be really careful about the way we're phrasing this discussion, because it sounds like all we do is promote college and leave others out of a discussion. And I don't ever want anyone to hear that, because that is not true. And I know firsthand that's not true. So I want to be really careful about this, because I have a kid who's going to college, and I have many kids that I'm surrounded by that are not going to college, and they feel like they've been supported here about different types of options and different pathways. You can call it a formal pathway of classes, or just options like whether it's going to be small motor fixing or things like that. So I just want to be really careful, because we have a lot of people working very hard at that type of work too. And I don't want it to seem like without this position, and it has been said here, that kids are being forgotten or left behind, because I don't see that at all. I think we can definitely supplement this. I am in support of it completely. It's how do we get there? How fast do we get there? What other priorities do we have in the school right now? I mean, we have a huge heavy lift with special ed that I know a lot of us are very concerned about. and it's emergent. Like, I feel like it's gonna take a lot more time than probably we all realize in effort, right? So there are other priorities that we're all trying to really make sure that we're not throwing too many things on the fire for all these directions to be going. Yes, people handle it, people can do different things. I don't want people to hear that people aren't in support of this. It's a matter of judging priorities, projects, money, being good stewards. What do we need versus what do we want? I mean, we could sit here and spend all kinds of money on fun stuff that we would all love for all these kids, but we also have a fiduciary duty. We have, responsibilities to make sure that we're making good choices. I think this dialogue is very important, but I'm hearing a little bit of a tone that we're forgetting kids or that we're not serving kids, and I want to be really careful about that, because I know that there are kids that feel very supported that are not going to college, and I don't want them to, it to sound like they're just flailing about. So I just feel uncomfortable with that right now, but I am completely in support of all the options except for one, but it's a matter of when and where. So I think flushing it out a little bit, we've talked about this will be more expensive than that. We don't have any numbers on the board. We haven't flushed out anything more than we made a contact with CLC, and we have some thoughts about how we might be partnering. So I think this discussion needs to continue. I think we need to kind of flush it out, see what it looks like, see what you get, what types of resources you guys think you have to mold around it. Maybe there's a 2.3 or 2.5, I don't know. But I think it's still a good discussion, and I don't think anyone is trying to stifle anyone's opportunities. I think we all know kids that could benefit from this, but there are also things in place here that they are benefiting from. So I just don't want that to be misunderstood by anyone.
Beth, I appreciate your comments, and at no point do I mean to come across like I'm discounting the tech campus or any of the other opportunities. My perspective is there's a large population percentage of our students that could gain from this.
Sure.
I just think we should give them as many resources as we could. As one wise person just said a short while ago, something about putting our kids on a path. I'm a big fan of that. We do a really good job of making sure everybody gets a high school diploma. I just want to love to be the high school that gives them a diploma and a path after high school. I think too often in high schools, where I grew up in other places, you get out of high school and you're kind of on your own if you didn't go to college. And that's not the feeling I want here at Warren.
I'm not disagreeing with you, Beth, on what you've said. I do agree with you, but I do disagree slightly on when you say that all students are supported, because I myself, I'm also surrounded by a lot of the kids in the district. And I've also come across a lot of conversations with other students where they don't feel supported and they're low income. So those are the kids I'm looking at.
Well, my kids are low income too that I'm surrounded by, and I also feel like they feel supported.
Right, so what I'm saying is there's two sides.
There's
Everybody's experience is
low
different.
income, high
Yeah.
income, you could feel supportive or not supportive. We don't need to argue about that. I'm just saying that the resources are here, the people are sitting here that do support the kids, and they do a terrific job of being available for that.
Right, and like I said, I don't disagree with you on any of that. I just disagree that the broad comment of all students are supported. I think that for the majority, yes, but there is still a group that does not feel supported.
Go ahead, Tony.
So I'm going to throw.
The ones that can't go to college, that don't have the financial means to go to college.
I was digesting what everyone was saying. I lean a little bit toward option 3, and I'll explain why. I think we have a lot of education world knowledge in-house, Chris and others. But what we don't have is someone who is in the tech ed world. So what I would be for is the short-term 3 to 6 months contract, somebody who lives in that world and can say, and when I say someone that lives in that world, I hear a lot about CLC, and that is our local community college. I'm not suggesting we partner with anyone else. But like you, live in the area, and I hear a lot of people talk about Gateway Technical College, just a little bit north. Serves almost 20,000 people, over 70 programs in career tech ed. Probably there's some knowledge there. Kenosha Unified, what have you done to partner with Gateway? I bet there's some very interesting programs there. So I guess my suggestion is pump the brakes. Maybe one of those technical, they have advisors just like how we have advisors, but they're in the technical space. Maybe one of those people does consulting on the side, not a full-time, but just a short-term consulting gig. Or what have you learned? What are some of the programs? What have you heard of? Because I've heard anecdotally programs in Kentucky that are kind of interesting to look at that you can go down and take a peek at. So there are other models outside of Lake County. So someone to just kind of digest a little bit, speak from experience in that world, come back and report, because that future position, number 2, might be somebody we're taking from a tech campus position and is now a college career counselor alongside the 2 we have now, but comes from a different world. So we might be complementing our resources instead of, you just don't know until you really research. And it sounds like there's been a lot of research done with CLC, but there might, like I said, Gateway and a couple others. I think as Harper does a lot. There are other colleges around that have dabbled quite a bit in 2-year programs, certifications. Gateway has apprenticeships and certifications. Just even our terminology, like we're saying apprenticeships, but other technical colleges are breaking it up from certifications. So maybe it just helps us speak with more clarity. So I guess that's where I would, the 1 of 7 opinion would lean toward 3 for a short-term consulting gig with recommendations that we may ultimately implement or not implement. But it would be nice to get that perspective that doesn't exist in our organization. So choose wisely, I guess is what I'm saying.
I think this is a great discussion, and it sounds like not whether we're going to do something, but what, and that's fine with me. But I'd like to address a broader issue, and Beth, you really nailed it. I've been on a few boards in my day, and boards are an amalgamation of opinions. Different people have different priorities. And I'd like to make very clear, I support what you're talking about in terms of special ed. But I would suggest that one does not preclude the other by any means. But I'm going to address a broader issue. I really liked Natalia's use of the word pioneer. I think you said that. We are in a position, this is a unique position. I've been on 5 different governmental entities in my 30 years in government service. And I have never seen a financial report as optimistic as the one we had 2 weeks ago. Now, what that means to me is, I don't want to hear, the next time I hear we're not Stevenson, I'm going to jump across the desk. We have the opportunity to be Stevenson. We have the opportunity over the next 20 years to have other schools come to us and say, how is Warren doing it? We have a new board, we have a new administrator, we have a new outlook, we have the financial wherewithal. I'm not saying waste it, but I'm saying let's look, first of all, at what other schools are doing and cherry pick and take the good stuff and graduate from that and have other schools come to us and say, I'm proud to work at Warren. That's the goal. I'm proud to be a student at Warren. I'm proud of Warren. I'm not saying people aren't, but I think we have an opportunity to be held up as an example, and I don't want to waste it. I don't want to be penny wise and pound foolish here.
I think I got a lot of opinions.
You're welcome.
We just started, hold on.
I will, I'll put together, we'll put our heads together, we'll put together a proposal for here in 2 weeks that you can officially vote on. Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Appreciate
So,
the feedback.
In the
Thank
meantime,
you.
I'm going to adjourn this meeting, go to a regular meeting, so we can have those guys come in.
Yeah, we can just have them come in right
Yeah.
during
What?
the committee.
What?
You can
Okay.
just- can somebody call Avanza in?
They've been waiting for us.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Oh, no.
About 40 minutes.
No, they just got here about half an hour ago. I think we did tell them 7:30.
Feeling it now.
Conversation. While you're introducing them or talking, when we have students come and we celebrate them, we have just a little pin that we give them. So I'll walk around and just be giving people pins while you're talking. Is that cool?
Yeah. Is this on? Oh, this is on. Okay.
You're hot.
Yeah, careful what you say.
We would like to start off by thanking the board for recognizing us tonight. The goal of Avanza is to encourage students and promote leadership among them. We feel that this goal has been exemplified by these students before you today through their participation in the annual Highland Park Chicano College Bowl. CCB is a networking event, cultural showcase, and trivia competition held between many high schools to promote community and educate Latinos about the participation and struggles of Latinos in the United States. These students before you have spent a tremendous amount of time studying and practicing since February in preparation for this event. They have demonstrated respect for the hardships of Latinos by learning their history, have demonstrated resilience because no matter how tired they got, they kept studying, and demonstrated engagement through their eagerness to participate on behalf of Warren. These students exemplify what it means to be Warren students, and we thank you for recognizing their hard work.
Could we just get quick, maybe like names and grades for everybody?
Yeah, I'm Gael, and I am a senior this year.
I'm Mia, I'm a senior.
I'm Jocelyn, I'm a sophomore.
I'm Melissa, I'm a junior.
I'm Amy, I'm a junior.
I'm Emily, and I'm a freshman.
I'm Karina, and I'm a sophomore.
I'm Jacqueline, and I'm a sophomore.
Catherine, and I'm a senior.
Still got, we got a couple more.
I'm Alexa, and I'm a freshman.
I'm David, and I'm a junior.
I'm Julian, and I'm a junior.
Good to see some guys in there.
Yeah.
I'm Ozzy, and I'm a junior.
And then we've got our advisors we don't want to forget about as well.
Lina Rangel, I'm at the Alman campus.
And Luz Bravo, and I'm at the Old Plain campus.
Thank you so much for coming. We're very proud
Thank
of
you
you.
so much.
Now you have to attend the rest of the meeting.
Well, you already made it this far. I mean, like,
Actually,
Tatiana, aren't you part of the group too?
I was last year.
Oh, okay.
she's busy.
All right, I'm going to pick up. I think so. The board had a recent conversation about data and key indicators and dashboards. So I did some work looking at our strategic plan and what's in our strategic plan, and some of what we've talked about over the last year, and have a framework for maybe how we look at data and review that data and how we measure progress that I want to go through. Just take a couple minutes to go through with you. And then I got some examples here from staff on some projects that we've been going through, and I think this will be a fairly brief conversation, but then we'll get some feedback. So we're looking at, really I think there's probably two types of data to look at. One would be key indicators. Those are kind of big picture numbers. And then what I would call quick data. Quick data is a little bit different because it's easier to measure on a regular basis and maybe is tied to a specific initiative or program or an approach or an improvement idea. So I'm going to talk about those two things differently, and you'll see anytime we're talking about a key indicator, I think I highlighted it in blue on the slide deck, and anytime we're talking about quick data, I highlighted it in yellow. So an example of a key indicator for us might be on-track status. We've talked about that a lot. But a quick data example might be students in lunchtime supports that are getting an F. So understanding and regularly measuring how many students are in our lunchtime supports but still getting an F will help us better attack the problem of having better on-track status. I'll jump to the bottom one. Employee engagement is something that's important to us and could be a key indicator. And we only measure that once, maybe twice a year, but we could on a regular basis be getting feedback from employees on how they perceive the quality of our trainings that we do on Wednesday mornings. So I have 11 proposed key indicators. 8 of them are student-facing, and 3 of them are just general kind of operational ones. These are the ones, this is what I would propose that we consider as a school district right now as key indicators. The first 4 for students are, I would say, hard data that we pull from our information systems. 5 through 8 are from our student perception surveys. We do those twice a year and really help us understand how students perceive both themselves and the school that they're in on a daily basis. And then 9, 10, 11 are, we have one around employees, one around facilities, and one around budget. It's not a lot. I would say let's just try focusing on a handful here at the beginning. So one thing that we worked through with our administrative team this year is a continuous improvement tool called a driver diagram. And in a driver diagram, you're able to visualize the thought process that groups go through in order to try something. They got an improvement idea. So they start with a white box up in the top left that I just identified some aspect of the strategic plan that they want to tackle. They then look for a key indicator that you're going to see in blue and say, hey, how are we going to measure improvement, big picture with this? Then we talk through as a team, what are the drivers that impact that key indicator for better or for worse? And then after the conversation around drivers, what are the organizational drivers that push that? We brainstorm lots of different change ideas, and eventually we identify a single change idea that we want to implement, and then we turn around and create a SMART goal, which is really my example of quick data. So I'm just going to put this in terms of the idea of having lunchtime supports in classes. To be honest, we didn't go through a driver diagram for this. This is something that we just talked about bringing back because of the referendum. But if we had gone through a driver diagram process, we would be saying, look, the part of our strategic plan that this impacts is empowering all learners to reach equitable outcomes. We would have identified as a key indicator on-track rates. We would have said, you know what, one way we can measure that is through failure rates. But we want to really get into this we think this lunchtime support option might help us, and so but we want to measure the lunchtime support, which is different than measuring failure rates. So a driver diagram for that might look like this. We've got on the top left, empowering all learners to reach equitable outcomes, our key indicators and on-track status. Maybe went through key driver brainstorming and came up with motivation, study skills. Maybe students are embarrassed to ask for help. But the change idea ends up in assigning students to a study hall. And then we jump back down to the quick data, and we're hoping to decrease the number of students assigned to lunchtime supports that receive an F. So trying to find a distance between the key indicator and the quick data is important for us to measure the impact of our programming. So I'm going to bring, Amy, I think, up to talk a little bit about one that we did work on second semester internally here. This group wanted to impact student sense of belonging. So they identified in the strategic plan, there's a statement that says we participate in our school, local, and global community. They wanted to impact student sense of belonging. A big part of that they felt like was extracurricular participation. So then they went a step further and said, well, what if we looked at new student extracurricular participation rate? And then they came up with this really interesting process that Amy's going to talk about. And right now what we're doing is measuring when students tell us whether or not they were involved, transfer students tell us whether or not they were involved in something, why were they not involved in something? We're getting really granular and just measuring that. Amy, you want to just talk a little bit about your experience?
Sure. So our group was Matt and Sandy and Candy, and Sarah Stepik's not here. So I think we were the fun group, the activity extracurricular group. So our global aim really was to make a connection with students and make them feel a sense of belonging. So that was like our global aim. And in order to do that, we first had to indicate, what are we doing currently to get information out about extracurriculars. And so we delved into that a little bit. And then we got to our change idea, and we chose to focus on transfer students because their window of opportunity for a sense of belonging is sometimes very short. They can transfer in September, but they could also transfer in April when there's really nothing available to be a part of. So from there, we, in one of our meetings, we did a go and see is what Danny called it. And so we decided to break up, and we took the whole list of transfer students. We looked at who transferred in second semester, and we decided to take 3 or 4 students. Each of us took 3 or 4 names, and we either called them down, and we had some structured questions that we created beforehand. And so we either called them down out of class or out of study hall, or some of our members of the group went up and spoke to those students. And we just kind of went through those questions in terms of what were your interests at your previous school? Were you involved? Are you involved here yet? Was it easy to find information? How are you getting information out? And so I think one of our proud moments was Sarah went up and spoke to a student and was going through the questions, and he said boys volleyball. Well, it happened to be the first day of tryouts. So this young man gets on his phone and he's like, I want to be in boys volleyball. Can you talk to my dad? And so Sarah's literally like, oh, okay. So she talks to dad. He gets registered online. She walks him through the whole process. This kid goes to volleyball, and as probably some of you know, there were 90-some kids at tryouts, and this student athlete made the team. If we didn't happen to do that day, I don't know. Would he have gone to do that? Would he have had the information necessary or the push? So we felt really good about that, and we kind of used those meetings with students to then create a survey to go through some questions, additional questions, and we sent it out to all of the transfer students from second semester. So I think it was about 50 some students that we sent an email to, asked them to fill out the survey, bribed them with a gift card that we all chipped in for. And so about 50% of those students responded. And so 73% knew how to get involved. And so obviously our goal is to, our short goal is to get 80% involved as we move forward and continue this work. I think probably some of us are like 100% of the kids better know how to. I think that's an easy task, right? That 100% should know at least how to. And then obviously we want to grow that to, can we give them that push to do that? Can we give them that confidence, enough information, how to do these things? Because it's easy to give someone information, but it's hard to get them to actually do it. How can we create a system that's gonna either give them a buddy to go with or some way to get in that door and actually, break the threshold and go do the things, so.
When a new student comes in and they go through registration, does that registration ask questions like, is your student interested in sports? And then they select which season, possibly which sport. Are they interested in extracurriculars? And then you give them choices of all the different ones. And so once that's submitted, then whether it's, the extracurricular department or whoever then can pull from from your registration, like who indicated interest in those, and then you could reach out. Do we have some system like that?
So we actually need a 6th member of our group, so I think you'd be a perfect fit. These are a lot of the things we're talking about right now. Like, quite honestly, as we all sat there and were able to do this work, none of us really truly know the process. So that kind of forced us to start looking into that. Of course, Danny's very structured, and so we were going backwards, like, we need to create this welcome packet. And he's like, slow down, you got to do this. So, we do have a lot of like ideas like that, similar to that, of what we can do. Our counselors do meet with them. I know there are tours that are happening. Oftentimes kids will come by the office, and if I'm in there, it's great because I do get to meet them, but it's a short window. What can we do to create some of those like pre-done questions so then we can take that and find a way to connect with those kids. So we did talk about that, but.
Yeah, so this is a great example. I'm really glad you brought that question up. So, because I do remember the team talking about, hey, should we do something for registration? This was listed as one of their possible ideas. So one thing a driver diagram does as a tool is it helps communicate our thought process. And it recognizes that this team thought through like 10 or 12 very different ways that we could approach the situation. And something that I am trying to help us do better at is focus our improvement efforts and attention so that we can better monitor how we get better. Because this team is going to get really good at making sure our transfer students understand. And then they're going to be able to ask the question, okay, so let's go to registration and let's see how registration impacts this, as opposed to trying to do 4 or 5 ideas at once and not being able to measure all of them.
So this is something that I had on for my district, so I would be happy to talk to you on what I do on my end if you're interested.
Absolutely.
All right, can I go on to example 2? Thank you very much, Amy. Good job, team. All right, Laura's going to come up for the next one. So while she's coming up, what I really was proud of this group of doing is they found a lot of distance between student sense of belonging and their quick data, which is what we want. We want as much distance between that because then we can really dive into the improvement science of what makes this aspect of our process work or not work. And so I like that there are lots of steps between students feel like they belong and students know how to sign up for some type of extracurricular activity. Super cool. So next example, Laura's team was really focusing on post-secondary enrollment, and they went through a couple levels, and right now what they're focusing on is connecting with female students to increase awareness of CTE courses and corresponding careers. So you'll see the driver diagram here, and I'll let her kind of tell their story.
So basically, our aim was to increase awareness of and participation in CTE courses for our non-traditional students. When we first looked at that, we were trying to define, well, what is the non-traditional student in our CTE courses? So we looked at our demographics, and we saw that our students of color were proportionally represented well in those courses, but where the proportion was out of line was our female students. So we decided to focus specifically on our female students. And we began to brainstorm, well, why might they not be participating in these programs? Now, I will tell you, my team was made up of Matt Jones, Chris Giocaris, and Pat Keeley, so as the lone female, I didn't feel I could speak on the behalf of all females. So we decided we'd do kind of what Danny called a go and see. So we took female students that were currently in our CTE courses, and we invited them to kind of a food and feedback session. So during their lunch period, we brought them in and asked them 5 basic questions to try to get at what are some of the things that you've enjoyed about these classes, what did you know about these classes before you took them, and what do you see as some barriers for other females coming in. With 5 questions, we originally thought, oh, this is going to take maybe 20 minutes of time. No, these girls are awesome. They really gave us a lot of great feedback. It took the whole entire lunch period and about 8 pizzas each period. So it went really, really well. What we found kind of influenced our key drivers. What we want to do is increase awareness of our CTE courses and the corresponding careers. So a lot of the girls that are in the courses right now, one thing they told us was that these courses gave them experiences that could help them evaluate where their interests were. So for example, in our engineering courses, part of the curriculum is looking at the various different engineering paths. And the girls were saying, well, I thought I was interested in this one, but then I found out this is really where my passion laid. So that was really kind of cool. Some of the other things that we found out in terms of identifying misconceptions, like some of our girls that were in our DIY course here at Almond, when they first signed up for it, they thought it was just a lot of little projects, you know, maybe just do a little this, a little that. They didn't realize all the things that they were going to learn that helped them to become more independent. Like a lot of the girls were saying, now I can move into an apartment, and if I need to fix my light switch, I can do it. So it also helped them kind of see where do they have other interests.
Adult women take
Yeah,
that course.
exactly. So we took that information and we decided, well, how can we start educating our female students specifically on what these courses mean? So our change idea is to implement a promotional program tied to course selection timelines to encourage female students to enroll in our CTE courses. And we have a lot of CTE courses, so we were trying to think, well, where would the most bang for our buck be? So at Almond, we do have what we would call an entry-level CTE course. That's our DIY course. From that course, you can take a lot of others within the industrial tech world. And at Eau Plaine, we decided to choose Woods 1, because again, that is where a lot of different branches can have opportunities for our girls. We are going to be doing our next Go and See tomorrow, actually, during 6th and 7th period. We have some girls that will be coming in to see kind of a little promotional program. Adam DeBaker is going to be kind of hosting it. We're going to be asking them some questions, like we'll do a little pre-survey where they read the description of DIY, and then they tell us, what are your thoughts about that class? Then we'll bring them into the promotion. Adam will do his little thing, and then we'll ask them a post-survey questions where now, after seeing that survey, seeing the promotion, what do you feel? And we're also going to ask them what are 2 things that stood out to you the most, so that we can take that and see what can we do next year leading up to course selection that might educate our female students a little bit more about the opportunities that these courses offer.
Thank you, Laura. What I was really proud of for Laura and her team was, I obviously haven't seen tomorrow, but going into, we call Go and See is when you either have to go on the floor and see how a process works, or you're talking to people about how a process works, and their connections to our female students was really, really amazing and fascinating to watch, and just watching that team internalize that. So they were a really good example of how talking to the end user can impact how you put the program together. So thank you very much, Laura.
Thank you, Dr. Kirk.
So what I'm proposing that we do for our dashboards is a little bit different than most school district dashboards. What I'm going to recommend is that for every pillar, we have 1, 2, probably 3 or 4 key indicators. I listed those just as a whole list, and we can report back to you on those 3 or 4 times a year. And I can put a calendar together for that. But then what I'd also propose that we include on that, because I think it would help if we have, we could guide some of our conversations around these types of projects, is if we also, as part of our dashboard, we are providing progress on these initiatives specifically. And so we're saying, okay, what was the quick data since the last time we met? Maybe the quick data is how many new, we did around, we've got transfer students, so all the transfer students we've gotten over the last 3 or 4 months, let's give them that survey and let's see, did they understand how to sign up? or maybe the quick data is, we've done X amount of promotional programs. When people are walking out of these promotional programs, what have they learned? And I think that will be a good way for the board to support this idea around continuously looking at our improvement projects and whether or not we're seeing improvement out of those improvement projects, which might be a different conversation than did the improvement project impact the key indicator. So I've got just some examples of what a pillar front page would look like. Maybe it's social emotional learning is the pillar, or maybe it's academic excellence. But then underneath, if we've got a couple projects, we could use some of our committee time and our reporting structures to highlight that. So that's my proposal. I'm open to any feedback or thoughts.
I have a question about, I know that maybe 4 of the 12 indicators, yeah, like 5 through 8, I know they come from the survey. Is there a self-selection bias? Is that the right one where, you're gonna have engaged kids taking the survey?
All of our students have to take the survey.
Do they have to? Okay, thank you.
I mean, they could opt out, right? You tell me, students. The panorama survey?
Oh, yeah, we do them. Just a lot of people claim that they're not very truthful on them.
Yeah.
So I don't know how accurate the data is, but no, we all have to take them. A lot of people are truthful, but then again, a lot of people just click through it because they just don't want to take in it's a requirement.
So they're just selecting whatever answer.
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, not all students. This does not go for all students. I would say the data probably does reflect better what students feel, but I would say that there is quite a few students who just don't want to be taking the survey, but they're required
Would it be
to.
safe to say the less engaged students don't click accurately?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
just
I would
wondering,
say
like,
that, yes.
I'm just thinking, like, is there a better way to, I know the survey is not easy, but it's a global,
Yeah.
I get it. I'm just wondering because I think about some of the kids I know clicking right along, and those are the ones that are not engaged.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I was just kind of, as we went through it, I'm like, yeah, the not engaged aren't gonna engage on that one. So
Yeah, I think that's super true. All the students have to take it. With any of the assessments that we do, we get different levels of excitement for those types of things. Generally, what we're looking for is comparison to the national average and improvement over time. So even if you have a group of some
clickers,
group of students that are clickers, I don't think that our impression is that we have a disproportionate amount of clickers than other school districts do. And most likely, the clickers, we're going to have clickers every time we do it. So as long as we're seeing improvement, we're still
is what
seeing
we're looking
Like
what we
that
want.
term, clickers.
Me too.
you're welcome.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of kids, like, because we usually take it during, like, first period, and I've seen so many just go,
Yeah.
just to get through it. And I'm in an AP class, my first period. So, I mean, I like the survey. I think it's a good way to get feedback, but there's definitely a big margin of error just because students, first of all, they might not even understand their answers very well. And I took psychology, so that was like one of the biggest things we actually talked about was the self-serving bias. Was you might, like, it might say, how engaged do you feel in school? And they might give themselves a better, like, score than they really deserve. So there's also that, and then there's also the clickers, obviously. And then I'd say the other thing is, I don't know how much of a say you get in what's put on the survey. I would say for me, as I've taken them through the years, I just find that they're really long. And I think that's what encourages the clicking. Because kids are just like, oh, like, I'm not going to go through everyone, think about the answer, and put the answer down. So I would say if there's any way to get them to be a little shorter,
Or even to put them out more often.
Yeah.
And like just have less on there. Because I feel like students would be more engaged if the teacher said, oh, well, there's only 15 questions on this. So please answer carefully and answer honestly. Instead of there's 80 questions on the survey, you have 45 minutes to finish it. Kids are not going to be as engaged. They're not going to be as thoughtful with these questions. So even though it might be not as fun to take more surveys, I think we might get better results in that way.
That's great
But
feedback.
Just a
could be
theory,
like,
just a theory.
I don't know, like twice a semester, you do a quarter of it. And that would maybe be more helpful to get students to actually put thoughtful answers down.
It's great feedback.
Completely
Appreciate
agree.
that. It's good. It's great.
Sorry for asking a good
Sorry
question
for
again.
sorry.
I really like this plan for giving us data, and I appreciate that it gives us a concrete way to see what projects are being tried and how well they're working, because it helps us have a sense of how to evaluate the system.
I like it too. I mean, this is exactly what I was hoping for, which is a system of structure of how to go about this in a targeted way with a strategic plan, using multiple types of data, not just the KPIs, but I like the introduction of quick data or whatever you want to call it. I really like the driver diagram, not just to, I like it because it can provide short-term change without waiting for a full school year in order to make a change. So one of the things that worries me is we get data back in May, look at it, okay, what are we gonna do about it for next year? Okay, that's another year of kids that we've missed, whereas
Recycle.
yeah, these short-term aha moments don't need to wait for us or anyone else for change to occur. In fact, it's kind of nice to hear about. We changed on a dime. Education in general is known for being super slow and creating systems like this. So there's just a lot of this, and then having a dashboard to report it out. So I always worry that we're creating lots of work for you and your team to where you can't focus on your day-to-day tasks or do the good work with kids. But at the same time, I feel like this sets us up really for a nice framework. So I like pretty much everything about it. The only question I have is who's on these driver, and you may have said it and I apologize, these driver diagram kind of focused groups? Who is doing those? Is that our administrative team? Is it staff in our faculty staff in our administrative team? Is it students, faculty staff and administrative? Like who constitutes a group that would take this on?
Right now, the only people that have done this, we just started at second semester, and it's just been our administrators.
Okay.
And we restructured twice a month. All of our administrators get together. We kind of restructured those Tuesday mornings so they could go through this process. It's a learning process. It's just administrators right now.
Oh, that's fine, and it helps to focus our administrative team back onto the strategic plan, which should be our guiding document and principles and pillars. So all that part is good. Be neat if ultimately it evolves to, a couple staff that want to take it on, a couple students that want to join in and help problem solve. I love problem solving teams that are like short term, a few weeks. I love the look and see approach and coming back with recommendations, and it just change happening in such a fast way. So I really like everything I'm seeing, I guess is what I'm saying.
Appreciate it, Tony.
I will also say student feedback. The student feedback sessions we had with you last year and the ones that we've been doing this year, I feel like a lot of students appreciate that because they feel like they've been given a voice. When they hear that these get to go, these thoughts, everything that we're planning out today, this gets to go to the school board, they feel like they're making a difference. And I also think that that helps with student engagement because then they'll be more willing to get involved so that they know all of these different parts of the school and they can input their valuable opinion into these discussions. So I really appreciate that from a student standpoint, the feedback sessions you've been doing with us.
That's all I have. If that sounds good.
Sounds very good.
Great.
Operations.
Okay, we have, I think you've seen drawings for the locker room and costs for the locker room. I'll just briefly say, we saw, the architect firm gave us a lot of different options, and we're just showing you the two least viable, sorry, not least viable, minimum.
Thank you.
You gotta work your way up.
Minimum viable product. So the core base of what we could do for replacing the basement locker rooms that'll play in with locker rooms in that tennis court area, Minimum viable product is probably, we're thinking about $16 million. And then kind of the next step, if we wanted to go up a step, would be putting a fitness center probably right next to one of those locker rooms, also on the tennis courts. Because right now,
Would that replace the current,
yeah, the fitness center right now is inside
yeah,
the
that
gym.
field,
Yeah.
field house or something?
Yeah, it was, so it's not
Stinky.
in front of the field house? What's the gray box directly, yeah. What is that one?
Sorry, I accidentally touched this. All right, so
Touch
right here is our gym.
Right, no, the box to the right, the gray box up, that,
Here?
right there, what is that?
I don't know.
That's the lunchroom, I believe.
That's what I
Weight
thought.
room. Yes, yeah, that's the weight.
So
So-
what are we talking is in the gym?
There's like, it's cardio. Cardio.
It's like,
Okay.
yeah,
It's
all
the
the cardio
cardio.
machines.
So the
cardio
weight
room.
room would not move, but the cardio would go to the, or would
I-
it all move?
I believe this is just the cardio room moving, but I could be wrong.
Cardio room is like called the cage because it's basically a cage wrapped like in the actual gymnasium. So
Right.
there's no like walls separating or anything. So if there's one gym class in the main gymnasium and another one in the cage, kind of it interlaps. It might be distracting a little bit. So I actually really
I'm
like
not
this
opposed to
plan,
that. What
yeah.
I'm trying to figure out is if we look at option 2 with the additional fitness center, do we combine the weights with, was that in the plan when they planned the size of it? Or was it only to move the cardio out of the gym and leave the weight room?
I think it was just, I
Established.
believe, but team will have to correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was just the cardio equipment that's in the gym right now. We're just replacing the gym.
So I guess my other question, I know I had asked the question about the existing locker rooms and the space utilization and why we couldn't build new locker rooms into the current, and I understand there's plumbing issues and a lot of almost deconstruction probably that would have to occur, but also the flooding issue. Is the weight room susceptible to the flooding issues that the locker rooms? No? Okay. Thank you.
Weight room is on the same level as the gym and everything, right? Yeah. The locker rooms are in the basement.
I don't have a visual of the weight room, so that's why I'm.
Yeah, I
had
also
to
am
ask
not able to
someone.
visually.
Yeah.
I
I'm
can't
with you.
picture them, but they're just there on the
Okay.
same level.
Sure.
So no flooding issue. That's all I wanted to double check. Okay.
Something that can, like some background, just information or some context on the gymnasium is, the gymnasium floor may, at some point, the board may want to redo that floor. If we redo the floor, then I think we're able to use it for competition. Right now, redoing the floor would require some abatement because there is mercury in the floor. It's an old floor. And so, but that's something that the board might need to consider in the future. Let's see, the other part of this conversation is if at some point in the future we do need to retire the pool and we don't replace the pool, then some additional square footage for PE classes via that fitness center might be a benefit. I'm not saying you have to do it now, but those are things to consider. The plan without the fitness center allows us to add a fitness center on to it in the future.
Oh, can you say that again, about the relationship between potentially not having a pool and the fitness center and PE classes?
So if we don't use the pool for PE classes, we're gonna have to put those kids somewhere. We need space for them to go.
A different thing to do
It's a
in
different
lieu
thing
of
to do.
swimming. Okay.
Yeah. Let's see. I think what we probably need from you is we just need to know if we're okay finalizing this. Would require some more work with the architect. We'd have to meet with some groups, the people that would use the space, to make sure that we're thinking of the right things. And then we would start the formal process for that. Yeah.
It would cost to redo the pool? Like an approximate number?
Yeah, that's a good, I appreciate you broaching that conversation. I don't know right now.
I know you don't. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I remember I was here last time, we talked about it, and it was really like up in the air what the process would be for that.
Yep. So so the update on the pool is, we did go back and look at the facility assessment, talked again to the architects that worked on the facility assessment, and spent some time with our facility director, made some calls to other places for pools. What we understand now, I think, is that even though there's a lot of conversation around, like, the pool's probably dying tomorrow, it's probably not dying tomorrow. It will fail at some point. Probably not this year. At some point, though, it'll either fail or we'll have to talk about large replacement costs. So I think a really good thing for us to consider would be to use this upcoming year to sit down, and you probably need to tell me to meet with the constituents that use the swimming pool. So those would be PE teachers, swim people, water polo people, anybody that uses any external groups that might use our pool. And I did start reaching out to 3 or 4 different organizations to confirm that they do pool rentals. And so I could continue to do some work there to understand better how we would use those facilities. Because I do think that we don't want to have the story happen to us. We want to be able to be prepared with a story and a plan for the day we have to make the decision or the year we have to make a decision. Yeah.
Sorry,
can we
I
get-
was not there when we had this pool discussion. So what do you mean when you say the pool will fail?
So different ways that the swimming pool could fail.
Oh, leak, like literally
Yeah.
like break apart.
Yeah, the pool could break apart. So you would start to see that earlier because you'd start to see some rust coming in through cracks in the pool. Or the filtering system could just like a car dies, the filtering system. There has been discussion around structural supports because of the humidity of the room, and the room wasn't initially built for a swimming pool. But when we looked at that and the facility review went in to those places and looked and we reviewed that, we don't actually see any current problems with that. It could pop up in the future, but doesn't now.
Pool's not doing too good.
It is an
way
old.
past
It is an old pool.
good
It's
life.
past its end of it. Past its life, but it's working.
So how can we get a better estimate of what it would cost to repair or replace it? Because that seems like that would change the tune on what other conversations we have with the community.
Yes, we do have estimates. We do know how much other high schools have spent on swimming pools in the last 5 to 7 years. So we do have that, and so we do have that amount. And the architects did give us a general, like, here's the range square footage that you can look at when you're thinking of a pool. We do have that number. It is fairly large.
But we haven't had an estimate for our pool.
Correct.
Possibilities, used to be a member of Center Club, for example, on Hunt Club Road, big pool. I know they're struggling financially. Possibility?
Yeah, I think that's part of what you should ask me to do is, if we didn't have our own pool, what would the options be?
I don't think other choice we'd have would be just discontinue swimming programs.
Some school districts have done that. I believe Round Lake, for example, discontinued maybe 20, 25 years ago their swimming programs.
I think that there's a lot of people that, like, they have scholarship opportunities, they get real recreation and fun, and it's a nice break from their lives to go and be a part of the water polo, diving team, swim team. I even personally know, like, a couple students that have been offered full ride scholarships because of those programs. So I think that Center Club idea, there's Fit Nation, they have a big pool there.
Yeah.
So I think that we should probably just look into a partnership with one of those programs and seeing whether they would be able to accommodate us in, like, the practice schedules.
Yeah, I think, Danny, this discussion clearly, we've talked about it, but I think we really need to put it into gear. I agree with you, like, if something happens, we're gonna be behind the cart instead of in front of it, so, but definitely, as far as getting information from, like, Fit Nation, I don't even think that's a competition-sized pool. you know, we're gonna have to do a lot of legwork on that end, but definitely the estimate for what it would take to replace it, or what would the repair, I mean, I don't even think repairs are even an option from what I understood,
Like we've
correct?
done enough Band-Aid.
Yeah, I think we're way beyond repairs to replace this issue. But also, you know, we talked about, after getting all that information, you know, and we're armed with some good discussions and whatever, because it's not a repair at this point, it's a replace or don't replace at some point, right? Is that what I'm hearing, kind
Yeah,
of?
probably. Well, you could continue to repair.
You'd have to, if it's gonna leak, you'd have to almost redo the
significant
inside of
costs.
the, yeah.
And probably if it gets bad enough, it is going to cost you less to rebuild than it would to repair.
Correct.
Or reinstate in the same space.
Correct. So, you know, just moving down the road then, discussions, we talked about those that use the pool, the athletic directors, the teachers, also the community. I mean, they're the ones paying for it too, so we gotta remember to include the entire gamut of people involved, so. But it would be after we gather information. I think there's a lot of information to really tackle at this point. So,
So question, because we looked at doing something with the pool probably 5 years or so ago, and it sounds like things have changed, because what we were told then is to have the pool on the interior of a school was not a good idea from a structural basis and from a roof foundation.
That is true still, yes.
So
we've bought time, it sounds like.
we bought time. Okay. So maybe,
I agree.
so maybe the part of the scenario is, what does it take to take the pool and, and put it like where, you know, the fitness center is, and put the fitness center where the pool is.
Yeah, that's exactly why I brought it up, because I was thinking about it and I was like, well, if we're not gonna have a pool, what's the point of adding a fitness center if we could just move the fitness center to where the pool was, if we're gonna get rid of the pool
So,
soon?
CEDAL, I think it's Gages Lake School, filled in their, my kids used to take swim lessons there through Gurney Park District. Well, they filled in the pool, it's now a gym for them. So that's a local example. The other benefit to doing it on the exterior, if something were to exist, who knows if, but small towns are known for doing this, a public-private partnership. So they'll put fitness centers attached to high schools so the whole community can use it. I'm not saying that's the example, but if there's an exterior entrance where people aren't going into the whole building, there might be some swim clubs and other organizations that possibly would want to partner, or you know, we engage in like a 20-year agreement with them, or they're and I think that's where the parents who are using the facilities come into play, because where what we can't do, others learn to supplement, boosters and other programs. I mean, they are very motivated to find ways. So anyway, there is a benefit to putting it on the exterior.
And that's one of the things we had talked about before, because then you can just open up that one hallway
Yep,
and not your
that's
whole
right.
school to everybody that's coming in to use the pool, which from a security standpoint is really nice.
Yeah, and you would want to change, and then changing the locker rooms near the pool.
Could we put it here?
At Almond?
Yeah.
I don't know. Initially just out of pocket, I think that we have less space to work with here, because not all the green space that we have is usable, and buildable. I do want to clarify.
What, you could put a pool in it.
Sure. I do want to clarify, Mr. Schultz, our perspective still is that it's not healthy for the interior of the building to put it inside. I think what is different is maybe people assume that there's already structural damage that right now we've not been able to find.
Okay.
I have a question. If we were to move the pool theoretically to where the new fitness center would be, would those locker rooms act as the swim locker rooms, or would they be general locker rooms? Because then we would need to implement showers and changing rooms and all that stuff.
I think, Chris, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think one of the big dream drawings did have a swimming pool next to the fitness center or the locker rooms. So we'll pull those out and people can see what those are like. And I can include that. If I take the next 6 months or so and do some focus groups, some more research, I can get you specs on cost and what that would look like, and what some of the different groups in our community and our stakeholders think about the concept.
Yes, I would like to hear from some focus group type conversation.
Could I ask though too, like, if I remember correctly, the pool itself is set down, correct?
Correct.
And are the areas around the pool, like those locker rooms there, are they susceptible to flooding as well? Like around the pool, like the locker rooms around the pool? No, it's just the exterior area.
We have a mini pool.
Kiddie pool.
Yeah.
Don't forget, we got Gow Beach out there, so.
There we go.
you
There
know,
we go.
Weather's nice, get out there.
Everyone.
So
I'm just kidding, no one actually wants to go into Gow Beach. Just to
I'm
be
curious, I don't remember offhand, but I can look if I believe that the swimming pool proposal was out here, but I'll go back and look.
That's correct. It's where the tennis courts were.
I agree.
Yep.
I
So,
remember seeing it.
does the board feel comfortable with us at least moving on the athletic locker room portion of the project in the short term?
Provided it's designed in a way for future expansion for a pool. So if that means a couple of doors that could work, or, it's not uncommon for projects to have phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. I think if you looked at it in that lens, the locker rooms need to be done, whether there's a pool or not. But I'd hate for us to spend all this money and be like, oh, if we just, plumbed it, whatever, for phase 2, like.
So I can bring, because what's not minimum viable product here is like a phase 2, phase 3, phase 4 that we just left off. So I can bring that all to the next board meeting and just at least make sure that you see that. Does that sound good?
Yeah, because I think, what if someone comes up with the idea of, all right, we'll just expand the locker rooms to where the existing pool is somehow. I don't know. I'm not an architect, and I can't get a visual, but fitness center and locker rooms to where the pool is, pool where they're suggesting the locker rooms are now. Like, what if that's a more reasonable expectation if we're keeping a pool?
Yeah.
So maybe we should just, again.
I'll bring the other plans. We can look
Yeah,
at those.
I'm trying to find them. I know I had them before, but.
I think
So
problem is if we put the locker room where the pool is, it's far away from where all the kids want to go to.
I'm just saying,
Yeah,
like,
no, I appreciate what you're saying, but
Yeah.
yeah.
And Beth,
someone
we-
might come up with a bigger, brighter idea
Beth, we
somewhere.
did have them redo, we went through a redo process, so I don't know if I've sent out the most recent, like, here's where a pool could be, here's what it would look like to redo the auditorium, for example, but I can get those for everybody.
So then there would be, so this new locker room would also act as like the swim locker room. It would be one locker room for everything instead of the two separate ones.
I'll have to go back and get everybody a copy of
Okay.
the plans. Because the locker room plans, just to clarify, you probably can't read, there are a set of athletic locker rooms and a set of PE locker rooms. They are separate on there.
From the diagrams, it didn't look like it was replacing the pool locker rooms.
It's not.
Currently, this plan is not.
Right. I think that's what you're asking, correct?
Yeah, because it's a little bit different when it's like right next to the pool versus if they would have to walk across the school to actually get to the pool. So.
Yep, I will just have to go back and look at where their thoughts were on pool placement and pool locker rooms. But I'll work on that. Okay, I'll bring that to the next board meeting. Can we talk about bus videos and then I'll be done?
Yep.
Oh.
Gio, you're up. Thank you, everybody that's leaving.
Thank you, guys.
Something we said?
So the bus video surveillance system is kind of the next phase of a lot of the security updates that we've been working on over the last couple of years. So it came up as a discussion in the safety committee about how do we improve our surveillance systems that are currently on the buses. Right now, our bus video is inefficient and cumbersome. So if there's an incident on the bus, it's not easy to get it back to the buildings, and it usually involves some sort of hard, like jump drive, CD-ROM transfer, The buses have to be on. We don't have any kind of wireless connection to bring video back to conduct investigations or resolve problems that may arise, like during the school day, or we hear about from the buses. So accessing video in real time is not possible with our current system as well. So we started to investigate the problem. And as we kind of investigate, there's really three options that we can look at here. We can continue with what we have. We can upgrade our current system that we have. We have a system in place with 24/7 security. Or we can look at deploying the Verkada video surveillance system that we have throughout our campuses. We can look at deploying that on the buses because they do have a way to provide a mobile solution. So those are the three options that we looked at. The first one, just kind of sticking with what we have, is $0. We can continue to operate with how we have in the past. But the existing DVRs that we have will eventually fail. We did update some a few years back. They will, as a fleet, will eventually need to be replaced, but not immediately. But we do have limited visibility on our large buses, and it will remain, and we will not have that what's considered to be best practices, especially on our large buses. Right now we have 2 cameras per large bus, and as we've done our research, we've learned that best practice is usually 3 to 4 cameras per large bus. So to update our current system, which would be a rip and replace of all the existing DVRs, which are like the boxes that are on the buses that record the video. We'd be able to continue to use existing cameras, but then add additional cameras to the buses. Right now we're 2 on the large buses and 1 on the small. We'd be able to get up to 4 and 2. We would be able to, with the new DVRs, establish a Wi-Fi connection, which 24/7 calls their touchdown system. That would allow us to upload data, video to the cloud when the bus driver has a button that would record an incident. What that would do is that would record a snippet on the DVR, and when the bus then returns to the bus yard, we are outfitting the bus yard with a wireless system, which would then it would automatically upload to the cloud for us to pull down in the buildings. And we also have, through their software interface, we're able to recall software or recall video. So if we find out after the fact, we had an incident on the bus yesterday, somebody's still got to turn on the bus, but we can then request it through the system. And as soon as the bus turns on, it connects to the Wi-Fi and we pull the video down. So it's much more efficient. We would be putting out, and we have to do some work out in the transportation yard anyway to connect some surveillance cameras out there. This would just the outfitting the Wi-Fi would be part of that system. And then the 24/7 is also providing us with the access points that are compatible with their solution. Buses only, like I said, they can only upload data when they are turned on, but when they return to the yard, there's actually a part on the bus that is like a timer. So when the bus driver turns off the bus, the timer keeps the battery on, keeps the Wi-Fi connected for a set amount of time to allow any data to finish uploading to the cloud before it then deactivates the rest of the bus. So it's not like the bus driver has to sit in the bus for a half an hour while we wait for video to load. And then the other thing that's of value here is the live look-in. So that's the idea that you can, with these new DVRs, they do come with SIM cards. So we can leverage cellular data for live look-in. So if there's a bus accident or if there's something that happens on the bus, we could immediately log in on the software, get the live video feed, make sure everything is okay while the bus is on. We can leverage cellular data. So the cost for this is about $220,000 over 5 years. So how that breaks down is there's a one-time cost for the system, right? That is $174,000 for equipment, and then about $15,000 to set up the touchdown system and the initial installation of that. Then moving forward, it's $7,000 annual licensing for the system. There's no annual fees for the DVRs, so it's really a one-time equipment cost, and then you're an annual license fee. The live look-in is $1,500 for every 1,000 minutes. So the way that I would process that is we don't often have incidents on our buses that would require where we'd say we want to look in. So it's not 1,000. It's not like they're going out and we're going to start recording as soon as they leave the bus, leave the bus yard and like stop recording when they get back. It's really only when we log in and say, I want to see bus 7 right now. And then watch bus 7 for right now for 5 minutes. And that would be 5 minutes of that 1,000. And then when you used up your minutes, they would just bill you for another 1,500 package. And the nice thing with that is they broker that cellular data. We don't have to go to another company and license a full data package to set that up. So it's all contained within the system. So moving to Verkada, and some benefits to Verkada is it does bring us under our single pane of glass, right? Verkada is our door access. It is our video surveillance in our physical spaces. Verkada would bring with it the full live access. We can configure it live access via cellular, or we could do a full upload when they come back via Wi-Fi. Instead of using 24/7, we would use their access points. We can set up our Meraki system out in the transportation yard to accomplish that. It would improve the quality of video cameras. The quality of Verkada cameras is excellent, but it would still keep us at 2 cameras per large bus and 1 camera per small bus, just due to the cost of Verkada. Verkada is an expensive solution, partly because of the quality that it brings and the value that it brings, but it is expensive. It does require additional hardware to complete all of this. So 24/7 is kind of all-inclusive. Verkada is, I feel that they're developing a nice mobile solution, but I don't know that it's not as mature of a product as what 24/7 has. So we would need in addition to the cameras, we also need a gateway to connect the cameras to a Wi-Fi network or to a cellular network. And that also requires us to go purchase SIM cards. If we're going to use the cellular solution, it would require us to use SIM cards and purchasing a cellular data package basically for every bus. So if we have about 70 buses, about $40 a month per bus times 12.
What about 56? Aren't we sharing buses with 56?
The way we own buses and 56 owns buses, right, Chris? So this would be on our buses that we own. So overall, the cost to install Verkada with their cellular gateway, not counting the SIM connection, would be about $230,000 for 5 years. But if you added the SIM, it would be about another $100,000 on top of that for the cellular data to cover the 5-year cost. And then the other thing is if we decided, we don't want to do the cellular, we just want to connect via Wi-Fi, well, then there's another product called Cradle Point, which is like a wireless product that would attach onto the Verkada that would allow us to connect through Wi-Fi, and that still carries a significant cost to it as well. So it is, while the Verkada system itself is $230,000, there's still significant costs above and beyond that for Verkada. So we're just kind of looking for some feedback. They're 2 very good solutions. I think our recommendation right now would be to, if we were going to move forward, would be to move forward with the 24/7 solution. But we're kind of looking for some guidance on how to proceed.
Because our next step is to bring you a formal proposal. So if you've got anything that you want us to be considering before we do that, that'd be great.
Which one protects us more in terms of liability, or does one?
Both would equally, but I think the 24/7 has better coverage throughout the bus because it does have the 4 cameras.
So that makes up for the lack of, I won't say lack of quality, but relative lack of quality.
And the cameras are good. Like they're good. It's just not as, I don't think there's high resolution necessarily as the Verkada, but they are we did see several demos of the 24/7 solution and they're high quality, high resolution. So I have no concerns about the video quality.
Is there any benefit, because Verkada is what we're using in-house here, is there any benefit we're missing by not going with that?
Not that I can see. I know that when we first started researching, I really thought we would end up with Verkada as a solution.
Surprised, yeah.
But as we went through it and we worked through it with our technology team and we went through it with transportation, we actually looked at a third vendor that it was very similar to 24/7. that when we put together the pros and cons of all of them, it really makes a lot of sense for 24/7, specifically because even though they don't have like that real-time constant stream, because we have the ability to spin it up on demand, kind of takes care of that for us. And then it's a system our transportation department is very familiar with, which helps them utilize the system. We can train internally, we can train on how to access that a little bit better. And they also provide a service that we can set up services for buses and cameras and stuff. So it's a really nice package solution for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially because the price that you gave for option number 3 with the Verkada, it's that cost plus another 100,000
Yeah.
plus.
What do you say, let's go with 2?
Yeah, the 24/7 sounds good.
That was the easiest one we had all night, thanks.
Yeah.
All right, I like that. All right, well, thank you very much, appreciate it.
Thank you, Gio. What else we got, Danny? Let's keep it rolling.
No, I've kept it long enough.
Okay. Given that,
You guys could talk about career pathway employee more.
we could, but just in case, I'm going to move to adjourn the committee of the whole and reconvene the regular meeting.
Second.
Roll call.
Motion by Schultz and second by Carlson. Mrs. Pope?
Yes.
Mrs. Martinez?
Yes.
Mrs. Squires?
Yes.
Mr. Devonte?
Yes.
Mr. Carlson?
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
6 yes, motion carries.
And just to make sure I complete everything on the agenda, we can have a moment now for public comment. Nobody signed in, but if anybody would like to address the board, they're more than welcome to.
Anybody waited
No one
this
stays this
long?
long.
I'm just making sure we're doing everything we're supposed to do. I don't see anyone, so we'll just move forward. That being said, I move to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
Roll call.
Motion by Schultz, second by Pope. Mrs. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Carlson? Mrs. Squires?
Yes.
Mr. Demonte?
Yes.
Mr. Pope?
Yes.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
6 yes, motion carries.
Thanks, everyone. Great meeting. Have a good night. Stay safe. Stay healthy.